A Philippine envoy to China says President Rodrigo Duterte will not impose the arbitral ruling in his meeting with Chinese leader Xi Jinping. The Department of National Defense says the owner of the Chinese ship that rammed a Filipino boat last June must pay for the damages caused by the incident following his apology. And a bill seeking to ensure the stability of government operations in case of a terrorist attack or major disaster is filed in Senate. Good evening. President Rodrigo Duterte will not impose the arbitral ruling that favors the country in the disputed territories during his visit to China. Meanwhile, according to Philippine Ambassador to China Jose Chito Santa Romana, the Chinese government has already apologized on the Recto Bank maritime incident through diplomatic channels. Rosalie Cos has the details.
The 8th bilateral meeting between the presidents of the Philippines and China happens tonight. The Philippine ambassador to China says President Duterte did not visit China to impose the arbitral ruling on China.
He's not coming here to impose it on China. He's not coming here to provoke the Chinese. He's coming here to exchange views, to understand. He's here to build bridges, not to burn bridges with China.
The Philippine Chief Executive will also raise the Code of Conduct in the South China Sea as well as the joint oil exploration in the West Philippine Sea. The Philippine diplomat says the proposed joint oil and gas exploration targets the disputed and the undisputed territories in the West Philippine and South China Sea.
We want to achieve cooperation in joint exploration in areas in the West Philippine Sea, South China Sea, both disputed and undisputed, because the question is who disputes what. So this is.
Meanwhile, Ambassador Santa Romana also reveals that a public apology made by the owner of the Chinese vessel involved in the Recto Bank incident on June 9 is a result of intense negotiations between the Philippine and Chinese foreign ministries.
Actually, the Chinese government through the foreign ministry has expressed they're very sorry about the incident through diplomatic channels already.
On the issue of compensation for the affected 22 Filipino fishermen, Ambassador Santa Romana said China has assured it will provide for the Filipino crew members. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Beijing, China.
The Department of National Defense welcomes the apology of the owner of the Chinese ship involved in the June Recto Bank incident. However, Defense Secretary Lorenzana said the ship owner must pay for damages. April Senedoza explains why.
Although the Department of National Defense is delighted with the apology, Secretary Lorenzana said the owner must pay the cost of repair for the damaged boat as well as the lost income of the affected Filipino fishermen. In a letter sent by Guangdong Fishery Mutual Insurance Association addressed to the Department of Foreign Affairs, the ship owner must be held liable for the Recto Bank incident. The association maintains, however, the ramming incident was just an accident. The English translation of the letter referred to the Recto Bank as Nasha Island Group, the Chinese name of Spratly Islands. But Supreme Court Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio says in a statement, the Recto Reed Bank is not part of Spratly Islands. The Philippines calls Spratlys as Kalayaan Group of Islands. He argues that based on the Permanent Court of Arbitration's 2016 decision, Reed Bank forms part of the Philippines' exclusive economic zone. April Senedoza, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The Department of Foreign Affairs Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. has clarified that he did not accept the apology of the owner of a Chinese fishing vessel that hit a Filipino fishing boat near the Recto Bank in the West Philippine Sea in June. In a post on Twitter, Locsin said he merely noted the apology. In the said memorandum, the unnamed owner of the Chinese vessel, through a Chinese association, apologized for the June 9 incident wherein its fishing vessel rammed into a Filipino boat and left its crew members adrift at sea. They also insisted that the elision was an unintentional mistake. Malacanang has accepted the apology extended by the Chinese ship owner to the fishermen affected by the incident. But for Locsin, Panelo's statement merely expressed satisfaction with the Chinese apology for the incident and the offer of compensation and nothing more. Meanwhile, the owner and the captain of the Filipino fishing boat rammed by a Chinese vessel last June in the Recto Bank are not satisfied with the apology made by the owner of the foreign sea craft. They demand payment instead. Sherwin Kulubong tells us why.
Junel Insigne, the captain of FB Jember 1, accepted the apology made by the Chinese vessel's owner. But for him, an apology is not enough. He reveals he has not received any financial aid from the foreigner. He also appeals to President Rodrigo Duterte to make the captain of the Chinese vessel pay for what happened.
Nawagan ako kay Presidente Duterte, dapat panagutin natin yung kung gano'n sila, umamin na sila, managot sila. Panagutin natin yung kapitan na bumangga sa amin. Sorry lang, paano kung namatay kami lahat? Sorry lang din. Magbayad sila, yung mga nasira nila.
For the owner of FB Jember 1, if the Chinese are sincere with their apology, they must also pay for the results of the incident.
Kung talagang sincere yung pagsusorry nila at kung sakaling kung hindi nga nila ng personal, sana sa amin may bigay lang yung danyos na mga pinsala na ginawa nila sa Jember. Kasi lahat naman kami doon, pati kami umaasa kami doon sa kinikita ng bangka.
According to the apology letter of the Chinese vessel's owner sent to the Department of Foreign Affairs, what happened was not intentional. But for Insigne and De La Torre, the Chinese crew must be held responsible. The apology letter also says the Philippines must file an appeal for the payment for the damages to be shouldered by the owner of the Chinese vessel. Sherwin Kulubong, UNTV News and Rescue, Occidental Mindoro.
Senator Panfilo Lacson filed a bill for the country to have a designated survivor like in the United States of America. A designated survivor is a government official designated to take over the presidency in the event that all officials in the line of succession die or are unable to be the president. This was inspired by a TV series where the designated survivor became a president when all other government officials died after a bombing incident during the State of the Union address. Under the bill, the designated survivor will be among the senior members of the upper and lower chamber and of the cabinet.
Kung halimbawa merong extremist o merong terrorist na bombahin yung batasan at naubos lahat, wala tayong susunod na successor.
Welcome back to Wine News. We pick up to where Angela Lagunzat left off. I'm Alex Baltazar, and here are the headlines. Over 500 families displaced after flash floods hit a number of barangays in Davao City. The Bureau of Internal Revenue files a 168.2 million peso tax evasion complaint against the wife of Kappa founder Joel Apolinario. 10 foreign nationals working as entertainers nabbed in a Manila city bar. The Philippine National Police warned small security guards against wearing themed costumes during Burr months. And find out the struggles only left-handed people will understand. Good evening. Hundreds of families are affected by the flash floods that happened last night in some barangays in Davao City. Janice Inyente reports why.
The Bustillo family is among the more than 500 families whose houses and belongings were damaged by the flash flood in Davao City.
Nagbaha lagi kay primero to ulan. Unya wala pa man kaayo tumuda ko ang tubig. Pagkataod-taod dito na ning dool na sa among gate pagkahuman ning sulod na jud na may kabantay niya di man matabang kay ang mga bata man among gi-safety mismo to pagdako sa tubig diri na sa sulod sa balay diri da nagsaka na mi sa tangsan namo tapos nag-ana na pud mi speaker sa atop.
Dec Wenceslao, another resident of Barangay Talungo, said he wasn't able to save any of their belongings when the flood water suddenly rose.
Alit lang kayo ni saka ang tubig. Naram ko dito sa kanto, unta niya kay paspas pa lang saka sa tubig mo itong wala nami kakuan, kabalik dayon na nami na save na gamit namo. Pag kabalo na mo na naingon nga taas ang tubig diri sa kuan sa bulusan. Ni-attempt kong ato diri pero wala na diri pasudlan sa mga rescuer kay kusog naman ang current sa tubig.
Affected residents have been advised to stay at evacuation centers for now. Classes in some schools in the city are suspended for the safety of the students. The local government has sent assistance to affected families. Janice Inhente, UNTV, News and Rescue, Davao City.
There are less flood-prone areas in Metro Manila according to the MMDA. On the other hand, streets that did not experience flood before get flooded nowadays. Vincent Arboleda will tell us why.
There are only more than 2,700 hectares which experience flood when it pours in Metro Manila. This number is less than more than 3,000 hectares of flood-prone areas in 2016 and 2017 based on data from the MMDA. The good news is some streets which used to be flooded before are not anymore. These include our Papa Rizal Avenue in Manila City, Don Bosco in Makati City, C5 Bayani Road in Taguig City, and Philcoa in Quezon City.
We have this continuous maintenance projects to our 60 drainage pumps which are all operating in full capacity. At meron tayong effective flood control operation system that is 100% reliable.
However, some areas which used to not experience flooding before are now otherwise. According to MMDA spokesperson, Assistant Secretary Celine Pialago, one of the causes for this is the trash that clogs street drainage.
Sa pagdami ho ng population, dumadami ho yung mga maliliit na basura which are the following: plastics, straws, at lahat ho itong mga areas na ito kapag biglang binabaha kahit habagat lang, magugulat tayo, maliliit lang yung basura na nakakabara.
As of now, the MMDA has 51 ongoing projects that aim to solve the problem on flooding in Metro Manila. The MMDA continues to appeal to the public to dispose of trash properly to prevent it from clogging street drainage. Vincent Arboleda, UNTV News and Rescue, Makati City.
For some lawmakers, the proposed budget for the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, or TESDA, for next year is not enough. Joanano tells us why.
From TESDA's 19.9 billion peso originally proposed budget for 2020, only 11.85 billion pesos is allocated by the Department of Budget and Management, or DBM.
We will appeal for more budget so that we can access and provide more assistance to more Filipinos. You cannot give a job or a livelihood without going through training, Your Honor.
Among the items deducted are the mobile training laboratories that make rounds to provide technical vocational course training in remote areas. The DBM approved only 50 million, enough to buy 6 to 10 mobile training facilities out of the 63 requested units. La Peña said the budget for the implementation of the new Tulong Trabaho Act is not yet covered under the 11.8 billion proposed budget. But some lawmakers ask why the slash.
And this is a law na kailangan i-set aside ang pondo na to. So I'm wondering why it was slashed out by the DBM considering this was signed by the President.
Dapat siguro, Mr. Chair, baliktarin natin. We have to give more budget for skills training. No, because if you're going to look at the underemployed, ang dami pa.
The chairman of the House Appropriations Committee vows to consider the proposal to increase TESDA's budget that will be tackled in the plenary debate next month. Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
The wife of Kappa Community Ministry founder Joel Apolinario, Mrs. Reina Apolinario, is now facing tax evasion charges. This after the Bureau of Internal Revenue formally filed a complaint at the Department of Justice today. My Bermudez will tell us why.
Mrs. Reyna Apolinario serves as the corporate secretary of Kappa Community Ministry. Although she declared her income tax return from 2016 to 2018, she didn't declare her ITR for taxable years 2012 to 2015, according to the BIR.
This is with reference to her as a single proprietor. There are several businesses under her name, but despite that, the declaration she has made for the past 3 years was not enough to show and justify how come her financial statements for taxable year 2018 as a beginning capital amounted to around 306.9 million.
The BIR also discovered Mrs. Apolinario's undeclared sources of income valued at 307.7 million pesos for taxable year 2017. This include cash worth 140 million pesos, luxury vehicles worth 27.6 million pesos, heavy equipment worth 65.7 million pesos, real estate properties including several properties and investments at 45.10 million pesos. Her income tax liability reached 168 million pesos for 2017 and 2018.
Especially pagka net worth method yung ginagamit mo, like in this case that we look for records and then compare it with the amount of income that they earn during a year. So yung ganyan talagang halos sabay yung administrative and civil. But the crime has already been committed in the taxable years mentioned.
The BIR says, due to the confidential nature of their probe, they cannot say whether the properties and businesses of Kappa founder and President Joel Apolinario are under their watch. May Bermudez, UNTV, News and Rescue, Manila.
The Philippine National Police warns mall owners and security agencies about the dangers of wearing themed costumes during the Burr months. Leia Ilagan details why.
Malls in the country will noticeably be decorated for the coming holiday season beginning next week as the Burr months begin. So, as early as now, the PNP Supervisory Office on Security and Investigation Agency or PNP SOSHA warns establishments who will let their security personnel wear themed costumes. PNP SOSHA Assistant Chief Police Colonel Sidney Villaflor says security guards cannot perform their job efficiently if they are wearing costumes. This is also a breach to security.
Yung mga pagsusot ng iba't ibang uniform ay posibleng samantalhin ng mga sindikato, ng mga iba-ibang grupo na posibleng gumawa ng krimen sa loob ng malls at iba pang business establishments.
Villaflor adds guards who will be caught wearing themed costumes will be fined 10,000 pesos for the first offense based on the Republic Act 5487. Their security agency will need to pay the same amount.
Kapag ito ay napangalawahan, napaulit pa, ay 20,000 sa bawat gwardiya at 20,000 sa bawat agency.
Kung makulit sir, paulit-ulit.
Talagang they will be subject for administrative investigation and may mga certain penalties lalo na sa mga CDB.
For the repeated offense, the security agency's permit to operate can be cancelled. The Civil Security Group also reminds security agencies to tighten their security efforts and the entry and exit points of establishments. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue, Krame.
Two alleged fixers who are in their 60s were arrested in the Manila City Hall. Meanwhile, Mayor Isko Moreno Dumagoso recommends the closure of a bar in Manila City and ordered to prepare charges against its owners. Arlene Delgado reports why.
Manila City authorities arrested two individuals who were allegedly fixers inside the Manila City Hall yesterday. Based on the police report, their victim was supposed to process her sister's birth certificate. Allegedly, she was brought outside the office of a city councilor. One of the fixers introduced herself as a registered reverend. After knowing what the victim was after, one of the suspects asked for 15,000 pesos for the processing of the documents. The victim had with her only 1,000 pesos, with which the suspect settled. But afterwards, the suspect asked for 300 pesos more as delivery fee for photocopies of the documents.
Isa yata sa staff ng konsyal, sinabi na doon ka na maghintay sa civil registry. Pagdating niya doon, nalaman niya na ang alaga lang pala ng birth certificate is 50 pesos.
The UNTV News and Rescue team went to the office of the counselor the victim mentioned to confirm alleged connection with the suspects, but the official is out of the country at the moment. The counselor's staff declined a request for an interview and vehemently denied the allegations. The suspects also denied their connection with the official as well as the allegations, but they admitted they asked for money because the victim was asking for help to fast-track the processing of documents.
Binibintan sa akin ay pawang walang katotohanan kasi tumulong lang ako.
Tinatanggi ko po dahil hindi ko po alam kung ano yung fixer.
According to MPD Smart Chief Rosalino Ibay Jr., the suspects might face robbery extortion cases. He also appeals to the public not to tolerate fixers.
Kahit senior citizen pa sila, kahit anong lahi pa sila, kahit anong katungkulan pa nila, wala pong pinipili ang batas.
In another operation, the police arrested 10 foreign nationals who were said to be working as entertainers in a bar in Manila City in San Andres Corner Adriatico streets last night. 9 of them are Russians, while the other is a Kazakhstani. According to Manila Police District Chief Vicente Danao Jr., they found out the foreigners are working without working visas. 5 of them were eventually confirmed having working visas, but some have already expired. The police are now looking into the possibility of an involvement of a human trafficking syndicate. The Manila City Administrator is now coordinating with the Bureau of Immigration to identify the status of the foreign nationals. Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Based on a study, 1 in 10 people worldwide has experienced intense migraine. Among them are 12 million Filipinos, and according to a specialist, migraine is something that must not be ignored. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
If you experience headache for more than 72 hours, that must be migraine. Migraine is a disabling neurological condition. Throbbing pain is felt in the head, which lasts from 4 to 72 hours and becomes more painful when the surrounding is too bright and noisy. According to a specialist, migraine should not be disregarded, for it may lead to more complex conditions.
Migraine triggered seizure and stroke. If the patient kunyari is migrainous, particularly, ang bawal dyan actually is the other risk factors for stroke.
Some of the factors that trigger migraine are oversleeping, lack of sleep, stress, lifestyle, food, and it can also be hereditary.
Huwag kang kumain ng pagkain may betsin or madaing kikumansos. Relax. Diba? Relaxation therapy is sleep in a quiet room. Just, and that will help you solve the problem. And just take a simple analgesics.
Specialists plan to submit a bill in Senate to help migraine sufferers on their working conditions and health benefits too.
Provide areas in the workplace where the patient can have a break, especially during migraine attacks, give compensation for these absences.
Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
If you are a right-handed person, it's important to find out the struggles of left-handed people even on simple daily activities. Is it hard to be left-handed? Watch this.
In writing, eating, using a pair of scissors, or simply drinking coffee. If you are a left-handed person, you may be experiencing certain difficulties daily. Take Gideon for instance. He's a video editor who admits he needs to make several adjustments when he's at work.
Noong una kasi itong CPU dito siya. So nilipat ko na siya dito kasi sobrang sikip. Nasisikipan ako lalo na pag mouse ka.
Not only Gideon, but also netizens have their own concerns about being left-handed. Rain often gets her hand beaten by her teachers whenever she writes using her left hand. Lenibel Alimaña's elbow always hits her seatmate when she eats. While for Lian Santiago, writing, using a pair of scissors, a bidet, and a can opener are a struggle. Edward Marinduque's arm always got tired because there were no armrests for left-handed people before. UNTV News anchor Flor Perez is also proud to be left-handed. Good thing, President Rodrigo Duterte has signed into law the Neutral Desk Law to give left-handed and right-handed students their armchairs to use. So, who must make the adjustments? According to Dr. Camille Garcia, a Filipino psychologist who is also left-handed, it's okay to correct only their writing, especially if their posture is affected, but caution must be observed.
It can create confusion. Pangalawa, sabihin na natin, ikaw mismo ang nagdi-delay ng ibang motor skills at saka yung dexterity skills na tinatawag sa isang fusion. But remember, merong mga pagkakataon na kailangan you have to use your left hand and you have to use your right hand for purposes of etiquette, for purposes of respect, for purposes na pag nag-handshake ka, hindi pa pwedeng left hand.
I will try to eat using my left hand for the spoon and my right hand for the fork. I realize it's hard to force a left-handed person to use their non-dominant hand, especially that they've been using their left hand all their life.
Huwag na kami pilitin. Kasi wala naman sa left and right yung paano magtrabaho eh. Kasi kung nandun ka, kahit kaliwete or kanan ka man, kung inaayos mo naman yung ginagawa mo, okay pa din.
According to a study, 10% of the Earth's population are left-handed. That's approximately 700 million people adjusting their way of life every day. So, if you happen to know a left-handed person, it's important to understand and be considerate that they have their own daily struggles even on simple things. Mon Hokson, UNTV News and Rescue.
Up next in Y News. Prime Minister Boris Johnson's plan to suspend UK Parliament sparks anger. American tech giant Apple to stop default practice of keeping Siri recordings. And thousands of revelers hurl tomatoes in La Tomatina Food Fight Festival. And those are the reasons behind the stories in the second part of our newscast. Y News returns with William Field. I'm Alex Baltazar. Good evening.
And to finally complete the most significant news for this day, Y News continues. Here are the top stories. Apple Incorporated said it would quit its default practice of retaining audio recordings of the requests users make to its Siri personal assistant and limit human review. The changes come after Apple earlier this month paused a program called Siri Grading, in which humans listen to audio recordings of users to determine whether the assistant had responded appropriately to requests. Kath Dumaraos has the details.
Apple has apologized following revelations that it paid third-party workers to listen to voice recordings of Siri users. The practice known as grading has been used by several tech firms as a way of improving the quality of speech recognition. However, Apple, Google, and Microsoft all halted such work recently following public outcry. The company said that 3 main changes would take place before human grading of Siri recordings was resumed. First, audio recordings would no longer be retained by default. Instead, Apple employees would rely on computer-generated transcripts of speech. Second, Siri users would be able to opt in to share audio recordings and would be able to opt out at any time. And third, only Apple employees would have access to recordings, and any recordings that had been made inadvertently would be deleted.
Hello Siri, what's the capital of Kenya?
Earlier this month, the company said it had halted grading following reports that workers had heard recordings containing intimate remarks made by Siri users. Such recordings can be made accidentally, for example, when the Siri app interprets another word or noise as the utterance "Hey Siri," which is used to launch voice recognition. Now, Apple says it has completed a review of such work. Up until grading was halted, 0.2% of Siri audio recordings was reviewed by human workers, Apple added. Kat Dumaraos, UNTV News and Rescue.
Meanwhile, the World Health Organization welcomes the leadership of Pinterest in protecting vaccine-related information in the internet. Nina Armilio explains why.
Social media platforms are the avenue many people get their information from, and they will likely be major sources of information, be it fashion, movies to watch, sports, and a lot more other interests. And when it comes to health, information becomes a major concern. According to the World Health Organization, or WHO, misinformation about vaccination has spread far and fast on social media platforms in many different countries, including during critical vaccination campaigns like those for polio in Pakistan and yellow fever in South America. That is why the WHO welcomes Pinterest's leadership in protecting public health by only providing evidence-based information about vaccines to its users. According to Pinterest, more than 300 million people come to the social media platform every month to get inspired and find ideas. Pinterest is introducing a new experience for vaccine-related searches on words like measles, vaccine, and vaccine safety, and reliable results about immunizations from leading public health organizations, the WHO, the Centers for Disease Control, or CDC, the American Academy of Pediatrics, or AAP, and the WHO-established Vaccine Safety Net, or VSN. The WHO maintains vaccines prevent deadly illnesses, with estimates of at least 2 million lives saved every year through vaccine. The WHO hopes to see other social media platforms around the world following Pinterest's lead. Nina Armilio, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
And for the news abroad, here's Kath Dumaraos reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand. Kath, good evening.
Good evening, William. Thailand's royal website was back online on Thursday, days after crashing when it released unprecedented pictures of the king's consort wearing combat fatigues and riding a fighter jet. The photos, together with an official biography of King Maha Vajiralongkorn's consort, 34-year-old Major General Sininat Wangwajirapakdi, was posted on the website on Monday. A palace official said the website crashed due to traffic. The king named Sininat, a former nurse and his bodyguard, as royal noble consort on his birthday last month. It was the first such appointment in almost a century, long before the end of absolute monarchy in 1932. Sininat's appointment as consort came after the king married a former flight attendant and deputy head of his personal guard force, Sutidatitchay, 41, and made her queen just days before his coronation in May. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson's decision to suspend Parliament has prompted an angry backlash from MPs and opponents of a no-deal Brexit. It sparked protests across the country, a legal challenge, and a petition with more than 1 million signatures. Jovic Bermas details why.
Demonstrators gathered outside Britain's Houses of Parliament on Wednesday after Prime Minister Boris Johnson moved to suspend Parliament for more than a month before the October 31st Brexit deadline. The move has enraged Johnson's opponents and raised the stakes in the country's most serious political crisis in decades. British lawmakers who want to stop a possible no-deal Brexit will have to take action next week. Former Finance Minister Philip Hammond said after Queen Elizabeth gave her consent to the motion following a meeting with the Privy Council at the Royal Balmoral Estate in Scotland. Hammond said that many lawmakers opposed to a no-deal Brexit had wanted to wait until later in September to see whether Johnson would be successful in his bid to negotiate a new Brexit deal before taking action.
A number of my colleagues would have preferred to wait until the 30 days that the Prime Minister has talked about was up and move in late September. That will now not be possible. We will have to try to do something when Parliament returns next week.
Cabinet Minister Michael Gove said the suspension was certainly not a political move to obstruct opposition to the UK leaving the EU without a deal.
It's certainly not. The Prime Minister is clear that he wants to use a new parliamentary session in order to ensure that the people's priorities are met.
The leader of the opposition Labour Party, Jeremy Corbyn, has written to Queen Elizabeth to express grave concern about Johnson's plan to suspend Parliament until October 14th, a party source said on Wednesday. Corbyn also requested a meeting with the Queen. Another smaller opposition party, the anti-Brexit Liberal Democrats, said they had also written to the Queen to express their concerns. Opposition leaders had agreed on Tuesday to work together to try and prevent a no-deal Brexit, including through passing legislation or holding a vote of no confidence in the government. Jovic Bermas, UNTV News and Rescue, London, United Kingdom.
Race car driver Jessie Combs, host of the television series All Girls Garage, was killed in a high-speed crash while trying to set a new land speed record, her family said on Wednesday. Combs, 39, was attempting to become the fastest woman on Earth when she was killed while racing on Tuesday on the Alvar Desert, a dry lake bed in southeastern Oregon, the family said in a statement. The details of the crash were not released. Combs, who began her career as a builder of hot rod cars, was seen on television in a number of auto shows, including Overhaulin', Truck U, Mythbusters, and All Girls Garage. A global wildlife summit has decided to regulate trade and tighten protections to more than 100 wild animal and species, triggering a threat from man and nature. Noel Poliarco reports why.
The Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, or CITES, gathered 183 states in Geneva as the Amazon wildfires raged. The parties voted to impose a near-total ban on capturing African elephants from the wild and sending them to zoos, after a heated debate on Tuesday, August 27. Countries agreed on Sunday, August 18, to strengthen protections for 18 threatened species of sharks and rays, including those whose fins are prized for making Chinese soups. The species will be listed on the Convention of International Trade in Endangered Species, or CITES, Appendix 2, if the preliminary decision is endorsed this week, meaning trade in products will be controlled but not banned.
There is an urgency to the extinctions that we are facing, and that CITES can play a very strong role in that. And we're species that maybe 20 years ago we would have never thought of engaging CITES on, like those timber species, like the marine species. Now the parties are turning towards CITES to help them with that.
Last week, countries voted overwhelmingly on Thursday to regulate international trade in giraffes, an endangered species, and in their body parts, overcoming objections by southern African states and drawing praise from conservationists. More than 100 countries also voted to ban the trade in the smooth-coated otter. Experts say the numbers of wild otters have plummeted by at least 30% in the past 3 decades, accelerated by their popularity as pets in Japan. CITES regulates the buying and selling of species at risk of extinction around the world, either by imposing outright bans or by requiring permits so that the rare animals and plants are not over-harvested. NGOs welcomed the measures taken during the conference but are now urging the states to enforce them.
Well, I think it's important to raise awareness on species being endangered. They're endangered by trade, but many of these species, trade is even worse because of the other factors, because of climate change, because of development, and because of habitat loss, such as, for example, the burning of the Amazon. What about the species that are there? And those species are endangered by a lot of threats, including trade, but other threats on top of it.
Noel Poliarco, UNTV News and Rescue.
And those are the news from the other parts of the globe. Back to you, William.
Thank you very much, Kathy Maraos, reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand. Thousands of revelers hurled tons of tomatoes at each other at this year's La Tomatina festival in Spain. Let's watch this.
More than 20,000 people are pelting each other with ripe tomatoes in the annual Tomatina Street Battle in a town in eastern Spain that has become a major tourist attraction. The party saw 145 tons of tomatoes offloaded from 6 trucks into crowds packing Buñol streets for the midday hour-long battle Wednesday. The fight leaves participants and the surrounding streets awash in red pulp. Participants don swimming goggles to protect their eyes.
I'm feeling hungry because we were jumping just all the time, and I'm feeling hungry and everything. And it's amazing, Definitely I will repeat it next year as well.
For a couple from the United States on vacation, the tomatina turned out to be a disgusting yet exhilarating experience.
This is a great feeling. This is a long time coming. So it's a really good experience for us. This is way nastier than I thought it would be. Way stinkier, way nastier, and very sloppy. So it's what I wanted, but it's not what I expected.
Organizers host the streets down moments after the events end at noon while participants use public showers. The event, which costs 12 euros for a basic ticket, was inspired by a food fight between local children in 1945 in the tomato-producing region. Mirasol Abugadil, UNTV, News and Rescue.
When a Mexican singer overheard a Venezuelan migrant crooning his own song in exchange for coins outside a restaurant, he was moved to tears by the young man's powerful voice. Now he is helping the migrant singer to pursue his dream of musical stardom. Here's Nina Armilio to tell us why.
22-year-old Alexandra Beja is one of the 1.4 million Venezuelans now living in Colombia after fleeing a deep political and economic crisis in their home country that has caused long-running shortages of food and medicine. The young singer arrived in Colombia last year and began to sing regularly on the streets of northern Bogota in hopes of earning what money he could. On the day last month, he was overheard by Mexican singer Mario Dom outside a restaurant in Bogota, Colombia. Beja was singing a tune called Venezuela. And this happened.
He had a voice like a bazooka. He has to use it.
Dom bought Beja a mobile phone, and the two now talk daily to coordinate Beja's planned September visit to Mexico, where he is set to record a duet with Dom.
That's when my life split in half.
Beja walks and takes buses for weeks to reach Bogota from his hometown of Maracay, near Venezuela's Caribbean coast. He reunited in Colombia with his two brothers.
Honestly, I can only say that there was a connection. I think my talent, more than singing, is in connecting with people, transmitting what I feel, and that's what happened. He cried, and I cried.
While he waits for a Mexican visa, Beja has continued to sing a cappella outside restaurants in many parts of Colombia's capital, where patrons deposit coins and small bills into his hat. Beja earns about $15 a day singing. One of his brothers works in a restaurant, while the other works as a photographer. Despite his current difficulties, Beja is confident he can reach musical stardom with help from Dom. In the meantime, as he prepares for another day of singing, he urges his fellow migrants to keep their chins up.
Don't give up. It's always darkest before the dawn.
Nina Armilio, UNTV News and Rescue.
The Philippines and China signed 6 agreements anew during President Rodrigo Duterte's official visit to China. The agreements are on higher education, science and technology, cooperation and mutual assistance in customs matter, implementation contract on project of China aid container inspection, cooperation procedure for the availment and utilization of concessional loan and preferential buyer's credit loan agreement of project management consultancy of the Philippine National Railway South Long-Haul Project. Meanwhile, President Xi Jinping and President Rodrigo Duterte reaffirmed their commitment to further strengthen the cooperation between the Philippines and China. The Chinese president has prepared a state banquet for the Philippine delegation tonight in Beijing. And those are the reasons behind the news this August 29, 2019. On behalf of Alex Baltazar and Angela Lagunsad, I am William Theo, and before we close, we will recap with today's significant sound bites. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Good evening.
He's not coming here to provoke the Chinese. He's coming here to exchange views, to understand. He's here to build bridges, not to burn bridges with China.
Sana sa amin may bigay lang yung danyos. Danyos na mga pinsala na ginawa nila sa chamber. Kasi lahat naman kami doon, pati kami umaasa kami doon sa kinikita ng bangka.
Baka naman per released convict, baka naman meron din corresponding amount. And when we talk of 11,000 convicts to be released at 10,000 each or 5,000 each, you can just imagine the huge amount of money involved.
The declaration she has made for the past 3 years was not enough to show and justify how come her financial statements for taxable year 2018 as a beginning capital amounted to around 306.9 million.
Yung mga pagsusot ng iba't ibang uniform ay posibleng samantalhin ng mga sindikato, ng mga iba-ibang grupo na posibleng gumawa ng krimen sa loob ng malls at iba pang business establishments.